This could be my favorite rule or recommendation with regards to the elements of style. Use definite, specific, concrete language. Prefer the specific to the general, the definite to the vague, the concrete to the abstract. Okay. A period of unfavorable weather set in. Unfavorable means it's just vague. What is unfavorable to one person might not be unfavorable to another person. Unfavorable could be, relentless sun. It could be windy. It could be, cold. It could be rainy. It could be hail. And then a period of unfair. It just seems, and then set in. That's a dangling participle. We've all heard about the dangling participle. It's not a colossal sin to have one, but when you put it in this phrase, it doesn't sit right. It rained every day for a week. Like right there, it rained every day for a week. Um, if you want to refer to it being unfavorable to a specific character in the story or a specific person that you're talking about, then you can comment on that. It rained every day for a week, comma, with with um, comma and Chris, and Chris hid out, uh, and Chris hid indoors behind closed blinds, you know, for the majority of it, or for the majority of the week. Um, that's probably not the best construction, but I think you guys know what I mean. So it rained every day for a week is much better than a period of unfavorable weather set in. He showed satisfaction as he took possession of his well-earned reward. Well, he showed blank as he took blank. Again, that structure is a little bit too dry and a little bit too boring, I would say. He grinned as he pocketed the coin. Very clear. How do you show satisfaction? Is it a smirk? Is it he ruffled his eyebrows? Is it his? No, we're talking about his grin. He smiled. So use definite, specific, concrete language. I'm a huge fan of this in general. When you're giving a speech at work, when you're communicating with a friend, when you're talking to your spouse or your partner, when you're talking to your parents, when you're trying to get a raise, when you're negotiating. I mean, just being when you're explaining, telling a story. We're gonna have a group of videos that's gonna talk about storytelling, and this is gonna be like one of the mainstays. Well, this is one of the mainstays of all communication that we recommend here, which is it's all about using definite, specific, concrete language. It's hugely important. The reader loves that because then they can grab on to exactly what you're saying, the clarity of what you're saying. So here's another bad sentence. There's general agreement among those who have enjoyed the experience that surf riding is productive of great exhilaration. I mean, that just sounds awful. I mean, I think all of you guys know, like, it just sounds terrible. Like, doesn't it just sound awful? All who have tried surf riding agree that it is most exhilarating. Clear, straightforward, to the point. That's what we're looking for. And so when you're writing, always go back and rewrite, proofread over and over again. I'll tell you guys, like that's a huge reason why folks do well on essays and in these humanities and social sciences classes, and why folks do not do as well is that they don't spend time proofreading, going over each sentence, going over each paragraph, rewriting, putting it in a drawer for a couple hours, or saving it in the cloud for a couple hours, and coming back to it and writing it again, and making sure that that you're using definite, specific, concrete language. If those who have studied the art of writing are in accord or in agreement on any one point, it is on this. That's a fact. The surest method of arousing and holding the attention of the readers by being specific, definite, and concrete. This is 100% fact. Critics have pointed out how much of the effectiveness of the greatest writers, Homer, Dante, Shakespeare, results from their constant definiteness and concreteness. Browning, to cite a more modern author, affords many striking examples. Take, for instance, the lines from My Last Duchess by Robert Browning, I believe he's talking about. Sir, 'twas all one, my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west. Right, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the sun setting in the west. The bow of cherries, some officious fool, broke in the orchard for her the white mule. She rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least. And those which end the poem, notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse thought a rarity, which claws of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. These words call up pictures. Recall how when the bishop orders his tomb in St. Praxis Church, the Renaissance spirit, its worldliness, consistency, pride, blah, 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 to quote Ruskin's comment to the point, is made manifest in specific details and in concrete terms. Essentially, he's quoting My Last Duchess. Not that, you're expected to know what every single word means, but, he's painting a picture. Every single line, the bowl of cherries, broke in the orchard for her, the white mule, she rode with round the terrace, approving speech, taming a seahorse. Prose, in particular narrative and descriptive prose, is made vivid by the same means. If the experiences of Jim Hawkins and of David Balfour, of Kim, of Nostromo have seemed for the moment real to countless readers, if in reading Carlyle we have almost the sense of being physically present at the taking of the Bastille, it is because of the definiteness of the details and the concreteness of the terms used. It is not that every detail is given. That would be impossible, as well as to no purpose. But that all the significant details are given, and not vaguely, but with such definiteness that the reader in imagination can project himself into the scene. That's something that I go over I try to go over it in multiple essays that we write from scratch. And one of them is the twin essay, where I talk about a sort of personal narrative, sort of personal story essay, and it's choosing the details. So, hopefully I did a decent job at explaining why I omitted certain details and why I included certain details. And again, a lot of it is, perhaps learning from different resources and practicing and all of that, of course, but also just practicing, spending time and, really just thoroughly doing your work. I know it sounds hokey, but take each essay as like a wonderful chance for another adventure. Like, okay, now I want to see if I can write a really good, clean, cogent essay. And just do your best job. Write it, rewrite it, turn it in early. Ask, go to your teacher's office hours. Ask them to grade it early, and then, and then see if you can't impress him or her even more when you write your final draft. Um, and just read a lot. I always recommend that as well. These videos can help, but there's nothing that it's kind of like these when I always compare it to programming, because I'm like learning how to program, and it's very challenging, and I always connect it to my strong background, which is reading and literature and communication, writing, etc. And it's like, people can talk to you about programming, people can show you how to do this and that, they can show you different resources and tools, but nothing nothing can compete with sitting down at a keyboard or sitting down and like writing out, the pseudocode or the algorithm or the, you know, even before you write the syntax, like to write out like, how the flow of the program is going to work. Um, but just actually programming. And it's the same thing with writing. It's like, you know, reading and writing are the best ways to get better at reading and writing. So yeah, and by reading more and writing more, you're going to get much more confident and deft with regards to the definiteness of the details and the concreteness of the terms that you use when speaking and writing. In exposition and an argument, the writer must likewise never lose his hold upon the concrete, and even when he is dealing with general principles, he must give particular instances of their application. It's very, very true. Very, very true. You're going to state, you state an event, you state something in theory, then you say, for example, because people are, the other thing that I'll note that I mentioned in other places is you always want to think about the reader, what the reader's going to ask. So when you make a sentence like this general discussion, the person might ask, okay, well, you're talking about something in general. Do you have any specific instances? Yeah, for example. So always think about what is the reader going to ask at the end of this phrase, the end of this sentence, and then answer that question very, very soon. The obvious, interesting questions. Um, well, let's read here. In proportion as the manners, customs, and amusements of the nation are cruel and barbarous, the regulations of the people are severe. In proportion as men delight in battles, bullfights, and combats of gladiators, will they punished by hanging, burning, and the rack. So this is, but in particulars, some delay must. He's talking about by calling to mind individual members of it. When an abstract word is used. So in proportion as the manners, customs, and amusements are cruel and barbarous, regulations are pretty cold and severe. In proportion as men delight in battles, bullfights, and combats of gladiators, or they punish by hanging, burning, and the rack. Yeah, this is much clearer, much cleaner, much more vivid because we're jumping straight into it. Men are delighting in battles, men delighting in bullfights, men delighting in gladiators fighting, but they're going to get, but the same proportion, they're going to get punished. Those men, the species of mankind is also going to be punished by hanging, burning in the rack. So it's all in proportion. Sounds much better than here. This is more societal, sort of more ethereal, more in general. It's not as definite. And so, from a reader's perspective, as Herbert Spencer from his philosophy of substitution quoted, which is the principle by the sentences. So this is the philosophy of style. This is the quote from this book, and these sentences that Strunk came up with. I like this one better. Hopefully, you guys do as well. Again, specific, definite, concrete language. Thank you very much.